Okay. So good morning, all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. So in our last class, we explained how we can compute the average of three numbers. So that is basically we have to assign the variables A, B, C. Then we compute the sum, and then we do the division by 3, and we get the average. Okay. So this program means if we look into this sequence of operation, so this is basically a linear type of sequencing. There is no conditions or no branching in such a way. Okay. So that means I read the values, then I add the values, then we do the average by division. Clear? So this is a sequence of operations. So we arrange the statement in a linear way. So one by one it will execute, and if we execute the sequence of operation in this order, then I am able to solve the problem of finding the average of the numbers. Okay, but all the problems are not like a sequence, like a linear sequence. So there are sometimes we have a decision making. Depending on some conditions, we have to perform a set of statements. Otherwise we have to perform another set of statements. Okay? So in that case, one example, that the simplest example is to find the larger number among, say, A and B. So A and B are the two variables or two integer types of variables, and we want to compute the which one of the element is larger. Okay? So in this case, the sequence of operations is something like this. Say we read the values. Clear? Then we make a condition check. So we sometimes represent these things like a diamond. In some class, we'll discuss these things. What are the notations, how we are representing the conditions, how we are representing the statements. But at this point, just consider that if there is a diamond type of scenario, then we are basically making a condition. Yeah? So the condition in this case is that we are checking whether A is smaller than B or B is greater than A. Okay? So this condition check will give me a Boolean type of results. So previously these operations are not a Boolean result. Boolean means the result is either a true or a false. But these operations are not a true-false statement. Yeah. So addition does not give me a true or false. But if we have a condition, then condition basically returns me either a true or a false. So this will returns either a true or a false. Clear? And if the condition is true, then certain statement will be executed. And if the condition is false, then another set of statement will be executed. So the sequence of operation is basically a branching. So I have read some things, then depending on the value that we have read, I branch my sequence of operation either to the left hand side or to the right hand side. Okay, understand? So if it is left hand side, then what it says? It says that B is larger. If it is the right hand side, then it says that A is larger. Okay? So this is another type of sequencing in the programming environment. So there are some type of syntax, there are some types of facilities to instruct the computer such that you have to execute this set of operations, depending on the condition. If the condition is true, then let us perform a certain set of operations. If the condition is false, then let us perform another certain set of operations. Okay? And when the operations are made, means when they are made, they again meet in the points. So your executions will be executed either these directions, depending on the case of true, or it will be executed under these directions, depending on the condition of false. Yeah. But when this set of statement is executed, then again they are meeting at a point. Okay. Yeah. But the two set of operations are basically non-overlapping. Either you have to either the executions will perform the left hand side or it will perform the right hand side. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So to make these things in my programming environment, how do we do these things? So let us go through this simple type of program. So in this program, I have there are, okay, let me delete this part. So in this program, we are basically computing whether A is greater than B or not. Okay. Okay. So these are basically the inclusions of the header file. Then there is a main block, and within this main block, we are starting my program. So before we start the program, so what are the things? Means how we have to map the problem into the programming environment. Okay? So first we have to think. In our previous class, in the last class, we have already demonstrated that how can I map the problem into the program. So in that case, what we do, we identify that what are the operations we have to perform. Then we make these things in the statement. Then we identify that what are the variables that has to be initialized. Then we identify that what are the types that we have to declare. Okay. So if you recall, then my previous things was that first we have written, or we encode the operations or statements then we make the initialization, and then third we declare the variables. The variables. Clear? So another approach is that before we start the programming, we just have to think that what are the variables we require to solve the problems. Okay? Then we make the initializations of the variables, and then we get into the executions of the statements. Okay? So another way is to do in the reverse order. Okay? So now we are trying to translate my problem into a program in the another way. Means first we have to identify that what are the variables we require. So if my problem is to find the larger among two variables, then what are the variables we require to solve this problem? We need somehow we need two variables. One is A and another is B. Okay. Now think that what may be the types of this variable. If we declare the variables as a integer, then I can only compare the integer values among the A and B. If we declare these things as a float or as a character, I can only compare the values of A and B as a character. Okay. Let we for the first time we declare these things as integer. So there are two variables a and b, and we declare them as a integer. Clear? Then we make some initializations. Let a be maybe say 20 and b is say 200, something like that. Okay, so this is the declaration, this is the initializations. Now my real statement will be started. Clear? So what is the statement? What are the statements we have to write? So first thing is that we read the values, and that things is how these things is done in this way. We have read the values here. Then we check the condition. If a is less than b, this condition we have to check. So in C program there is a block which is called if block. Okay? So this is the syntax of if block. If a this is the syntax of the if block. So it says that we are checking the conditions whether a is less than b. So this will return, this if block will return if there is a condition. Clear? And if the condition is true, if this condition is true, then there is another block starts. And if the condition is true, then the statement within this block will be executed. Otherwise, it will drop the statement and comes to this point. Understand? Okay. So it looks something like this. So there is a sequence of operations starts, then it happens, then there is a if block. If. Clear? So if it is true, then certain operations will be performed. Then it comes to this point. If it is false, it directly jumps to this point. Okay, understand? Okay, do you get this point? So if a is less than b, if this condition is true, then obviously this statement will be executed. If a is not less than b, then nothing will be executed. It comes to this point. Understand? Clear? Get it? So I can use these things. I can use this block, and we write printf. Say a is larger. Okay, understand? And this block stops. So the sequence of operation will be something like this.
B will be larger, Joydeep. In this case, A, if
okay.
A less than B.
So in this case, B will be larger. Okay. So my sequence of operation will read A equals to 20, B equals to 200. Then there is a condition A less than B, and this condition is true. So it will print B is larger, and it comes to this point. Okay? But in the other case, if this is 2000, then what happens? Then it will start by initializing the value A equals to 2000, B equals to 200. This condition will false, then nothing will be executed. It just jumps to this point. Understand? So there will be no statement such that A is larger. Understand? It only checks whether B is greater than B. Sorry, B is greater than A. If this condition is true, then we have a statement within this block. This is the curly bracket which says that this is the encapsulation of the block, and within this block there is a print statement. Yeah. So if the condition is true, then the print statement will execute. If the condition is false, if this condition is false, then nothing will be executed. It will just come at this point. Okay. So what is the another case? I have to print the other other conditions. So there is obviously there is a else condition. So we call these things as a else. Else is basically the complement of the if. So if it else is always dangling with a if. Clear? If I have a statement of if, then I can append a else statement. Clear? It is not mandatory, but if there is a existence of a if block, then it may be appended with a else block. Clear? But else cannot be an independent block. It is always a following blocks of a if. Okay? So what is the else condition? So if this condition is false, if this condition is true, then obviously B will be executed. This statement will be executed. If the condition is false, then we have a else condition. Okay? So there is a else block, and this else block will print, say, print f A is large. Okay. So there will be a is large, and then it will meet at this point. Okay. So what we have learned, we learned that there is a sequence of operations. The sequence of operations is basically a linear. If we don't have any conditions, or in another example, we'll show another type of sequence. So if we have written a program as a sequence, as a statement followed by another statement followed by another statement, then the execution is basically a linear type of executions. Okay? But there are some certain blocks. We call one of the block is if and else block. Okay? So the if block is basically a branch. So it branch the sequence of operations either to a condition of right or to a condition of false. Okay? And else block is basically captures the false condition of the if. Okay? And knowing these things, knowing this structure, I can write this program. This program is basically to print that whether the element A is larger or the element B is larger. Understand? So the first thing is that there is a main. So this is the main block. Understand? So I can understand that there is a main block. Write it as a main. Then in the main block we have the declarations of the variable A and B. Then we have initialized the variable A equals to 20, B equals to 200. Then there is a block starts. So then we have a if block, and if block always have a condition. So if the condition is that if A is smaller than B, then we have to execute this statement. And executing this statement is to print or is to display in the console the undercode sentence. So element B is larger. Okay? So if this is not true, then there is a associate block which is else. Okay? And this else statement is executed when the if condition is not true. Okay? And in that case, we will print that the element A is large. Okay? And finally, the two condition meets in this way. So this is the if. So there is a print. Then this is the else. Then there is another print, and they meets. And finally, we have a return. Returns. Okay. Okay. So the main block starts with the first statement, like int. So this is the first statement. This is the second statement. Then there is a condition check. Depending on this condition check, it will either enter in this if block or it will enter in the else block. Okay? And if it enters into the if block, then it will never enter into the else block. Otherwise, if the execution enters into the else block, then obviously it does not enter into the if block. Okay? And finally, they meets with a return statement. Okay. Okay. So this is This is the code that we have written, and if we execute this thing, let me check it. Say larger. C. And compile and run. So the element B is larger. So it displays or it outputs that the element B is larger. And if we make this thing something like this, then what happens? It says that the element A is larger. Okay, understand? So now let me forget to write the statement here. So these are the possible errors that I am showing how generally programmers or the beginners have some types of mistakes. Here. So in this case, what is the program? What will be the output of the program? Let this 6 is something like that. So what will be the
Both
output
will
of
be printed then.
Yes, both will be printed because
Both will be printed.
yeah. So that is the understanding of the else block. Yeah. So in this case, the condition will be true. So A is smaller than B. Then it enters into this block. It does the printing statement. Then when it returns from this block, it finds that this is the statement in the main. Yeah. Then it will again prints the statement that element A is large. Okay. So see how it happens. So it prints the element A is larger and followed by element B is larger followed by element A is larger. Understand? So if we try to make it, it looks something like this. The executions will be say first A equals to 20, B equals to 200, then it checks A less than B, it is true, so it prints B is larger, then it comes out and then it finds that within the main we have a statement of print A is larger. Okay, because this statement, the second printed statement, is the part of the main block. Yeah, it is not not within separate blocks. It is basically the part of the main block. Understand? Clear? Get it? Hello. Yeah.
Sir, one doubt is
Yes,
there.
sir.
Yeah.
File here includes Studio H. So that Studio H file is common for every program that we are doing.
Basically, this is common. It is not studio. It is STDIO.
Yes, sir.
That is,
STDI.
we call these things as standard input output.
Standard input output.
Yeah.
Module. It's
Oh,
Yeah.
acha.
So standard input output means when we are using some input output functions like printf is a output function. In some case, in some another example, we'll have to read something from the keyboard. Clear? So in this case, these values are default values. I am providing the values in the program. Understand? But sometimes, or in many cases, we have to read the values from the input devices. So there is some functions we are using like printf. Then there may be a scanf. So these functions, when we are using these functions in my program, then I have to include the stdio studio or header file. Understand?
And sir, all these files are included in the virtual machine of C language.
Mostly. In any compiler, you will have these default types of libraries. They are called the library or the header files. So they are in most of the compilers, they are having. Understand?
Sir, why we use int main?
Int main, okay, we have discussed this thing, but just to make that every function, so they are basically the functions. Understand? So main is also a function. In later class, we will understand more of these things.
Sir, why we use return 0?
Just explain. So the thing is that there is the general description of a function is something like this. Function, then it takes some arguments and it returns some true. Okay? Returns something. So it looks something like a black box. It takes some data, say A and B, and it outputs a C. So this is the general abstraction of a function, and the name of this block is function. Understand? So main is also looks something like this. Main. So writing main is int. It means that the main does not takes any argument. So this is a void. It does not takes any argument, but it operates. But writing int at the beginning of main is saying that it returns some integer types of value. Understand? Clear? So to whom it is returned? So the question is that main is a function which initiates the execution of the program and it also terminates the program. Clear? So what main, it starts the program and it terminates the program. So when it terminates the program, then it returns 0. Clear? So what is the meaning of this thing? The meaning is something like this. Generally, there is an operating system, there is a OS. Clear? There is a OS, and this OS is triggering. So the OS is basically triggers the executions of the main. So it starts the executions of main. Yeah. And when main terminates, then it returns some value to the operating systems. Yeah. So by practice, if it returns a 0, that means the executions of the main is successfully done. Otherwise, if there is some error conditions, then we have to return some error values. Error values are sometimes it may be encoded by 1, 2, something like this. Yeah. So like if there is a divide by 0 happens, then it returns some error code to the operating system, such that operating system understands that, okay, the main has not been successfully executed. So the general practice means when we are writing a C function, so this is a general practice that you return some value to the operating system. Understand? So generally we write the main function or we describe the main function in this way. It returns integer types. It does not take any argument, and it at the end of these things you have to return something. It is by default it is 0. It means that I have successfully terminated my program. Okay. Do you get this point?
Yes, sir.
No. So this is the practice. Means you have to learn some practice, and in the later class means when you are in the 4th semester, then you will understanding that why operating systems need some values. Okay. Get it? So this is one example or one instance where we just understand that how the branching can be performed. So this branching is basically a left or right branching. Okay. So in our another example, we'll show iteration type of sequence. Okay. So iteration is basically say I have to do some operation repeatedly. Say let an example. So compute the sum of first say 10 numbers or say 10 integers or positive integers plus integer. Yeah. So it is simply the 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to 10, and this is the sum. So there are some standard formulas like it is n plus or sum into 10 10 into 10 plus 1 by 2, and it will get the sum. Okay. So this is the arithmetic progressions, addition of the progressions. But instead of doing these things, we want to really count the sum. Like I want to do 1 plus 2, then the result will be added with 3, the result will be added with 4 in this way. So my sequence of operations is basically a repetitions of a single type of execution. So it is sum, say initialize with a 1, then I have to do sum equals to sum plus 2, then sum equals to sum plus 3, and in this way I have to do these things how many times? Say up to 10. Okay, so this is the first. So 9 times I have to perform these things. Okay, so there will be 9 similar types of operations. Okay, understand? So this is basically iterations. I am, instead of I branch myself to a left or right, I am iterating a sequence of operations depending on the conditions. Condition is that when these things gets to a value of 10, then I have to terminate my sequence. I have to jump it from here to this point. Understand? Clear? Get it? So one sequence of operation is the linear type. The second one is branching either left to right, and the third one is two iterations. Okay? And these iterations is basically I am performing a similar type of operations. So there is, I am basically doing a same operation, sum, clear, or addition. So it may be a single addition, a single statement, or it may be multiple statement. The thing that it should be a similar type of operations, and that similar type of operations are performing repeatedly. Clear? Okay. Get it? So doing these things, how can we do this? Say, if we move on, then we'll find, let me just clarify the points. Okay. So before we move, so this is the structure of the program, and these colors, and they are represented. So the first statement is called the header file, inclusions of the header file. Okay? Then this is the starting of a block or a function. Okay? So the function, the blocks may be a functional block or it may be a conditional block. So the main is basically a functional block, but if and else are basically a conditional blocks. Understand? So so your structure of the program always starts with the header file. Then there will be some blocks. Okay? The outer blocks is basically a functional blocks, and within the functional blocks there may be another functional blocks of the condition blocks. Yeah? So in this case, I have the outer block as a main block, and then again green colors, they are the functional blocks. Understand? Sorry, they are the conditional blocks. Then this is the declaration of the variables. So this blue color says that this is the declaration of the variables. Then there are statements. Yeah? The statements are basically these are basically the statements. So what statement it does, it assigns the value of 20 to the variable of A. This one assigns the value of 200 to the variable of B. Okay? And then within the functional blocks, we have some conditional blocks. And the conditional blocks may have some another functional blocks. So printf is basically a call to another functional blocks. Understand? Okay. So we divide the program into this type of statements. So the structure is that at the beginning you have a header file, then we must start with a functional block, and within the functional block we must have to declare the variables. Then we have some statements. Okay? And there may be some functional blocks or conditional blocks. Get it? So organizing these things in different ways, you can able to solve different types of problems. Okay. Get it? So moving forward. Okay. So this is another problem where we are computing the sum of first n numbers. Here, n may be 10 or n may be 20, but we must have the value of capital N before we execute the count. Yeah. So how do we do these things? So we now have a variable which is called n, and we are computing 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to n. Clear? So what are the another variables we must need? So n, say n is the constant, say I am trying to compute up to 10. 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to 10. So what are the another variables we require to solve this problem? One is that there should be a result, let it be a sum. So there must be a variable sum. S-U-M. Okay. And what are the other things we need? We basically need a counter. So counter. This counter will move something initialized with a 1. Then after having some operations, the counter will be initialized or move to a value of 2. Then it moves to a value of 3. It moves to a value of 4. And in this way, it goes up to the value of 10. Okay. Let me do these things in this way. Say, let n initialize with a 10, sum initialize with a 1, and counter initialize with a 2. Okay. Then I write a statement, sum equals to sum plus counter. That means I have performed 1 plus 2, which is sum. Okay. Then what we have to do? We have to increment the counter by 1. Say counter plus 1. Okay. That means now counter becomes 3. Become 3. And if we repeat this sequence of operations, then what will be the next scenario? The next scenario is something like this. Say we start from the beginning. So it is n is equals to 10, sum is equals to 1, count is equals to 2. Okay. Now we do sum equals to sum plus count. That means this becomes 1 plus 2. Okay. Then we increment count plus 1. That means it becomes 3. And we repeat this operation. That means sum now become sum plus count, which is 1 plus 2, and now 3 is added. Okay. Then again, count becomes count plus 1. That means it becomes 4. And we again repeat this. Okay. That means it becomes sum equals to sum plus count. That means already this is there. Then we have 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. And now count becomes count plus 1. That means it becomes 5. Okay. So doing these things repeatedly, I can increment my counts. It will be 1 plus 2, then 1 plus 2 plus 3, then 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 in this way. Get it? Do you understand this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then there should be a termination. How do we terminate these things? So if the termination is that we must have a condition such that when count is less than n or less than 10, or yes, it is 10 is here. When count is less than or equals to 10, we are basically repeating this statement. Okay. So when counts become larger than 10, when counts become 11, then we must not repeat this problem, these statements. Understand? So there is a condition. Depending on this condition, these iterations, how many times we have to iterate, these iterations will have a check. So it starts, then it comes to this point, it checks whether count is less than 10 or not. If it is less than 10, it repeats. Again, it checks. If it is less than 10, it repeats. Again, it checks. If it is less than 10, then it repeats. Then when it is not less than 10, it just drops to this point. Understand? Yeah. So this is the iteration. So iterations is also depends on a true or false conditions. Understand? If the condition is true, then we iterate. If the condition is false, then we do not iterate. Okay. And this iteration is basically a similar type of operation. So I have to encode my statement in such a way that I can instruct the computer that you are doing a similar type of operations. Okay. But at the same time, I am modifying some variables. Okay. So in this case, I am modifying the count variables and the sum variables. Okay. And doing these things, I am able to solve the problem. Okay. So basically, what I am doing 1 plus 2, and in the next case, I am doing 1 plus 2 is already available. I am 3. In the third case, I am doing 1 plus 2 plus 3 is already available. So I am doing 4 in this way. So count is incrementing 1 by 1, and sum is accumulating the results. Okay. Understand? Get this point?
Yes, sir.
And if you
Yes, sir.
if you look into this in the sequence of operations, then in the C program we are having a while statement. The while is like a if block. Depending on the condition, if the while is true, then the sequence of operations will be executed. When the while is false, then the sequence will be not executed. It drops to the outside of this while block. Okay. Understand? So we'll go in details of these blocks, but just to understand why I am presenting these things, to make you say in the sense that there are variables in the program. We are having the variables. Then we are having the statements, and we also have the organizations of the statements. The organization of the statements is either as linear, or it may be a branching, or it may be a iterative. Okay? These are the three organizations of the statements, and there is another organization which is called a functional call. We'll discuss these things later on. But generally, this is the main three types of sequencing of the statements. And before we write a program, before we jump into the programming, we have to think that what will be my sequence of operations? What are the conditions? What are the iterations? And if you identify these things correctly, then it is not a hard task to write the problem. Understand? So in this problem, I have to identify that I have to perform an iterative work. And what is the iterative work? Is this sum is sum plus n, and n is incremented by 1. If I identify these things, then 90% of my job is over. I have to just translate these things into a programming language. Understand? So today we have the lab sessions. So we'll start the lab sessions, and in the lab sessions you just go through this point. You just try to understand that how the if block works. Yeah, we'll not go in for the while blocks. You try to understand that how the if block works. Then we'll give you some assignments or give you some problems, and you try to solve the problems with the if blocks. Yeah, understand? But before we start, just go through these slides or go through this lecture and try to understand that how the if block works. Okay? What is the syntax of the if block? keep in mind that this is the syntax. So you have to write if, then opening brackets, then there is a condition, and there is a curly bracket opens, curly bracket close. This is the block. Understand? So this structure you have to somehow you have to remember. You have to remember some syntax. You have to remember some structural definitions, and using these things, we are able to write the C program. Okay. So we can stop for today. If any doubts, we'll try to answer.
Sivanshu, are you? You have raised hands for a long time. Sivanshu, are you there? Do you have any query? No. So as Joydeep sir has already mentioned, we will start our lab session at scheduled time 3 p.m. You should join through the same link. Okay, same link will be used. And in your class routine, you might have seen that it is only 45 minutes allotted. But actually, this is a live session. It may continue up to 1.5 hours or 2 hours even. Okay, so be prepared for that. Today, maybe for the first class, we will not go for that much, but for later on, lab session will continue up to 2 hours. Okay, so be prepared for that. And the second announcement, I would like to mention that next Friday's theory class, which is scheduled from 11 a.m., may not be held. I mean, we are having some difficulty in campus. We will not be able to use internet services. There will be some major
Yes,
thing.
yes. No,
So-
Yes, sir. We got mail about that. That there will be a transfer of the session.
We got mail.
Yes.
So you also clarify the other classes, means we are not able to conduct the class, but you ask the other faculties whether they are also able to take the classes.
It is
or not.
only for our class. You should not consider this as, I mean, global. I mean, you should ask individual instructor. Okay. We are not
Sir,
saying
can
that
I-
all the classes of Monday will be cancelled. Not like that. For our side, we will reschedule the class if possible in the next week probably. Otherwise, from Monday onwards, the same schedule will be followed. Okay. But today we are meeting again at 3 p.m. using the same link. And those who are still using their personal mail ID, we are requesting again and again, try to start use your institute mail ID. Otherwise, it will be very problematic. And I have seen many of you have not yet enrolled in the Moodle system. So do it quickly. Okay. If you are facing
Sir, I
any
have a
problem.
question.
Yes, Dipanshu.
Sir, in my PC, in Dev C++, sir, printf is showing error, sir, every time, sir.
Printf.
Yes, sir.
So in the lab session, you will share your screen and then we'll check.
Okay, sir.
Okay. In
Sir,
3. Mhm.
so you told us to begin with Gottfried book. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
I cannot find that on internet. Do you have that?
No, I don't have the soft copy. We were talking about. So you can search for Balaguru Swami's book also. That will be also good choice for beginners.
Okay,
Programming C
Sir.
by Balaguru Swami.
Sir, is there any
Yeah.
holidays for that last week Christmas?
No. You don't have any holidays, and we also don't have any holidays for you because your session has started so late that
Yeah.
there will be no holiday, no vacation. Earlier in normal course, we had vacation in last week of December and also a long summer vacation. But for past 2 years, due to this COVID scenario, and especially for your first year, because you are entering so late, so we had to compact 2 semester within 6 months instead of 1. So there is no vacation, nothing.
Next year we will enjoy the vacation.
Hopefully, when you come to the campus. So you have got the academic calendar, na? So you will
Yes,
see
sir.
that
We got the
only the holidays which are normally the calendar holidays are the holidays. There is no vacation this time for you.
Sir,
Hmm?
sir,
Our second sem will be in offline mode or online?
No, your second sem will also be online probably because probably from third semester onwards you will be getting offline if situation permits. Okay. So till now it has been decided
sir,
for
there's a
you.
lots of varieties at conducting the classes offline.
So we will also start it. We will start it. Not for you. Second year, third year students will come. See, there
Yes,
is
sir.
lots of
Just
problem. I mean, you
For
what
first
other
year students
NITs are
also, sir.
doing, huh?
For first year students also, sir.
No,
So
means
that is depend. I mean, all NITs are autonomous bodies. They have every right to take their decision based on their, I mean, infrastructural constraint and based on their understanding. So our administration has exercised everything. Okay, based on that, whatever decision has been taken, we are telling that. It is, you cannot just give alibi. I mean, there will be many institute doing something else what we are doing. Okay.
But sir, in orientations, the directors are told for
the
offline in second semester only.
Okay, maybe.
Yes,
Then
sir.
I'm withdrawing my
from May,
statement.
from May.
If director sir has said that, so that will be the actual thing. Okay. I am
no,
nobody to.
as per the existing notification, it
Hmm.
is said that
Hmm.
the semester will be online. So
Actually,
the
everybody is
notification may
looking into
change.
the. Nobody is 100% sure, na? Because this with this advent of this so-called Omicron variant, people are actually
Yes, sir.
get scared to actually decide anything a priori. Okay, so if situation improves, then